out. And now we are live. Okay, so let me just very briefly review the points from the notes. Number one is that the Mishnah Berurah says if you have no specific plans for the medium types of fruits, even though you didn't plan to squeeze it for liquids, if it comes out, it is asr. Number two is that we said that if some countries squeeze and some don't, even though they have enough of that fruit, then it's only asr to squeeze in the country that squeezes. But the Mishnah Berurah adds if they export it to the rest of the world, it is asr everywhere. And number three, we said, is that there is a chumrah in sucking directly from an animal because that is normal for animals to suckle from each other. Obviously, human babies from humans, but still it's not so strange. Therefore, it is only, it's asr for anybody else besides a sick person. Okay. Now, here's what I was just about to say. We had a machlokes rishonim about squeezing fruit with your mouth. What was the halacha?
If you're eating, it's okay. If you're doing on purpose for squeezing, not.
Okay, if you're actually eating the fruit, there's no question that it's asr. There's no question. If you eat a grape and in your mouth the grape gets crushed, and that's of course that we don't have to say. But I'm talking about if you're squeezing it with your mouth and you're spitting out the rest. Shemeh? You're eating with your mouth and you're spitting out the rest.
Water.
No, it's not boyer. But we had a machlokes about whether it's considered mefarek or not. Some Rishonim said it is, it's asr, I think the Yereim, and others say that it's mutter.
It's derech oten.
You're squeezing it to where? Into your mouth and the rest you take out?
Exactly.
In general, this was derech achila.
Some say...
I give an example, there can be a difference between if you give it to a grape or you don't give it to an orange. You can cut the orange like to quarters or to eighths, and you can just squeeze it and...
It's still not derech achila. People don't usually eat oranges that way. People eat...
No.
So it's like squeeze, Rabbi, here, the orange juice.
I mean, some say it's derech achila, but it's still not the normal way to eat.
So it's considered to squeeze because you squeeze it.
That's a machlokes.
Actually, you get left with soil because it's going to be the klipa remain most of it. If you did to a grape, it's all kosher to achila.
No, but there's still something to spit out. There still is something to spit out. You could still spit something out.
It would be easier if you take a piece of orange and you squeeze everything, and then after you do with the...
I'm not talking about squeezing with your hand. I'm talking about squeezing with your mouth.
No. You take a piece of orange and you put it in your mouth, and you eat it. But you squeeze in your mouth, you eat it, and then whatever left, and you take it and throw it.
So we have a machlokes here. Machlokes rishonim. What was the halacha l'maisa?
Today you love.
No.
Today you allowed. I don't think so.
But to squeeze out of your mouth?
But I'm not made up of...
I wouldn't know any better. I would think I didn't give a class last week.
You chew it, and then when you finish, you spit the rest.
Oh, is that what the rabbi's talking about?
Regarding grape and olives, to be sucking grape and olives...
What's the question, Rabbi, again, please?
The second opinion is going to be like dome from your neck with behema, so therefore there was aso. Again, because it's not the right way. I don't remember exactly what the reason. But there was medame, zaytim, and grape if you suck it, like be your neck with behema. Therefore, it's like amach midav bracha, because it's not like actually the way to do it. That the human yonek from basically, we should be machmir by olives and grapes because it's a issur d'oraisa in general. Even though you're doing it with a shinui, but a shinui is not enough to make an issur d'oraisa mutter. After all, yonek from a behema is asr, even though it's a shinui, it's still asr. Yes? In general, yonek from behema is asr in general or just on Shabbos?
on Shabbos. It's not also in general. There's a Gemara about a fellow who had this condition exactly, and he had a goat which he tied to his bed, and he that was his breakfast. And then the Gemara says his friends came and they said, "How could you have a goat?" Chachamim forbade people to raise small animals in Eretz Yisrael because they eat from other people's crops. Anyway, the whole story. But Lamaisa, it's not forbidden during the week. Anyway, so therefore it's usher. It's better to be strict by grapes and olives. But by Shar Peiros, Alter Rebbe said you could be mekel. The Mishnah Berurah also says, because in addition to the opinion that says it's mutter because it's a shinui, there's another reason to be mekel because maybe it's derech achila. Okay, that was the afra.
So you take a nub and you put it in your mouth, and it tastes really bad. You allowed to spit it out?
Yeah, because they're just spitting out the whole thing, the juice, the thing. You're not squeezing out the juice. Spitting out the whole thing.
Anything you spit out, everything is okay.
Yeah.
So the question was, if you have something you put something in your mouth and then you chew it, you take out what like
the solid. Okay, so here's the thing. The Mishnah Berurah says that the whole machlokes here is only if you don't chew it. It's if you squeeze, like you squeeze it with your mouth. You just suck it with your mouth, but you don't actually chew it. That's when there's a machlokes. The Mishnah Berurah says if you chew it, then everybody agrees it's derech achila.
Derech achila, that's what I said before.
That's what the Mishnah Berurah says. However, the Badei HaShulchan and in the Ktsos HaShulchan disagrees. And he says, no, that the machlokes is even if you're actually chewing it. And he proves it from sugar cane. Because in the discussion about this issue, one of the types of foods that's discussed is sugar cane. Sugar cane is obviously something, you're not going to be able to suck anything out of it unless you actually chew it. It's like a piece of wood. You're not going to get any flavor out of it unless you chew it. So if that case is a case that you chew it, presumably the whole discussion is about a case that you chew it, and therefore he says that he disagrees with Mishnah Berurah.
We studied last week sugar
Sugar cane.
makil matok. We also machloket. We also it's derech achila, and we it's okay. We said that.
That is correct. But my point is he uses that to prove that we're talking about something that you chew and not something that you just suck on from the outside.
I have a question. If you shall al mili smoke, as we can, machmir tabo la bracha. If you al mili smoke, it's okay.
Every machlokes is different. There's no klal. I can't tell you a klal. It depends on the machlokes.
There's no way to.
But we're going to be mekel by Shar Peiros. We're going to be machmer by grapes and olives, and also by kvoshim and shlokas, by pickles and cooked vegetables. We're going to learn more about them later.
What about eating the soup and
Also, we're going to be machmer.
getting the wine?
Also going to be machmer. Only going to be mekel by Shar Peiros. Yes.
If someone didn't do more, is he allowed to sphere something?
He's allowed to. The general order is tada v'she'ena tada tada kodim. It's not that he's not allowed to. It's that if you want to know the right order, Meir is the right order.
There's a necessity. Yeah. I can forget to tomorrow, but forget to sphere something.
Yesh makom lahakel, especially if he has a minyan. Some say if he has a minyan now, let's say he came late from Meir, they're up to Sfira. Some say lechatchila he should do Sfira first, because that way he'll get the ma'ila of doing with the minyan.
But the
So,
ma'ila
won't forget.
counting with the minion. The only way this one going to say is God by himself.
Nevertheless, he's still doing it as a group. Rav Am Hadras Melech. I think it's the Kaf HaChaim that says that. Quote somebody said that. Okay. Here we go. Mishnah Berurah with Dirshu. if a woman expresses her milk into a container, the Tosfos Shabbos
Where
says,
are we now?
I'm sorry,
Where are we?
in the notes. You should have gotten an email with my notes.
Oh, okay, right. Notes.
I'm back to number 1, Mishnah Berurah with Dirshu. Okay, so we spoke last week about the fact that a woman who expresses her breast milk is being over on an Isser Mafarik if she expresses it into a container. What is it? Is it a Deraisa D'Rabbanan? The Tosfos Shabbos says it's only D'Rabbanan because it's not the usual thing. The Mishnah Berurah says it's Deraisa, whereas Rav Vosner says that nowadays, for sure it's Deraisa, because nowadays it is the usual thing. A lot of women express the milk, freeze it, lend it to other women. They have a whole, gemach, absolutely. That women that can't produce their own breast milk or enough of it, but they want the children to have the health benefits of it, so they share. Anyway, the point is that nowadays it's normal, so therefore he says it is asam v'natar. Okay. Listen, in the olden days they used to do it all the time. The olden days they had nursemaids who the aristocratic women didn't do it themselves, so they hired somebody else. Anyway, here's an interesting halacha. We're going to learn it in 328, but he mentions it here, so I'll bring it in also. A woman is allowed to express a little bit of the milk into the mouth of the little baby. An older baby knows what to do already. A little baby doesn't really know. You have to get him interested. So they squirt a little bit of milk into the mouth and then to get him started. So that's considered mutter. Even though it's mafarek, whatever. Considered mutter. The Mishnah Berurah has a tough time understanding why it's mutter. But one of his explanations is that it's like a sakana. If you don't, he's not going to eat. He's not going to eat. Little baby's not going to eat. It's dangerous. Now, if a woman has too much milk and she has to express it because she's not comfortable, right? It also could be a sakana, by the way. All right, a woman can get an infection if she doesn't relieve the pressure. Anyway, so what you have to do is to express it in a way that it goes li'ibud, that it gets lost and not saved. So she could do it exactly. She could do it down the drain, or more practical, because nowadays the pumps are connected to a little container. She could put soap or some other item into it that's going to ruin it and make it impossible to use.
Is it because we're afraid she's going to prepare for another day?
Nothing to do with that. Right. It's because we don't want her to transgress on a Torah violation of mafarik, of squeezing a liquid from a solid. So if she does it in a way that ruins it, then it's not considered that she produced anything significant. You see what I'm saying? Because it got lost right away, or it got ruined right away. So it's not like she got a liquid; she got nothing.
Don't do it as a normally expressed.
Not on Shabbos. Not on Shabbos. And if they need to, because they're uncomfortable, they have to do it in this way. Unless it's mamish sakanas nefashos. Shlomo Zalman says, a baby, I put this in here, a baby who only nurses from the mother, does not take any formula, and is having trouble eating from the mother, and finds it easier to eat from a bottle, which is not unusual, by the way, because the nurse, they have to suck much harder. By a bottle, it's easier to get it out. So sometimes it's easier for the babies to do it from a bottle. So Shlomo Zalman says actually she's allowed to do it to the baby. She's allowed to express it to the baby. He considers it sakanas nefashos.
I have a question.
Yeah, that's what he says. It's
But
a big
not-
finish.
Also pump too, Rabbi?
Not an electric pump. We should minimize the isurim, but yeah, but a pump. What do you say, Yossi? Yes, sorry.
I have a question related to the Siman, but it actually came up on Shabbos. We have olive oil that we put in a dish with garlic and vinegar, and we had it on Friday night. We put it into the fridge, and it went semi-solid. is it permissible to take it out and put it near the stove, but not on the stove, so that it becomes properly liquid?
That's a machlokes according to the Ramah and the general Ashkenazi consensus. It's actually asr. According to the Mechaber, it's mutter. Ramah holds it's asr.
So I thought that it was permitted in this case because if I tipped it, it would actually move around. So it was still technically a liquid.
Ah, okay, that could be.
Well, I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping I got that right.
That could be. So when you say congealed, you mean like there were globules that were congealed and most of it not, or what do you mean?
Well, you know what happens to olive oil if you chill it?
Uh-huh.
So someone had put it in the fridge, and it was slow moving.
Mm-hmm.
If I tipped it up, it would take about maybe 4 seconds to, rather than coming out immediately, it would take 4 seconds to.
No, that's still
down. Okay.
the liquid. That's okay.
But if it had turned into a full solid, then we would.
That's when you have this machlokes.
Does it make a difference whether it happened on Shabbos or not on Shabbos?
No, that doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
We learned about it in 318, and we'll learn more about it in this Siman. But
yeah, I was just going ahead in the Mishnah Berurah, and I came up to it.
Yes. So, for example, when you have like congealed chicken fat, same issue, same exact issue. Okay, so
it was nothing like congealed chicken fat.
Right.
It wasn't hard.
Right. Okay. They also wrote here that if she has no bleach or similar liquid, the Tzes HaShulchan says she can do it less than a gregorus at a time and spill it out.
What's a gregorus?
Gregorus is a dry date.
Oh, right.
Okay, so sorry? No, it's more than an ounce. An ounce is a kazayas. A gregorus is bigger than a kazayas. I don't remember. I think it's less than 2, but yeah, I don't remember exactly.
I remember seeing 34.6.
Oh yeah? So it's like not quite 1.5, 1 1/3 maybe. Okay.
They had massive fruit back then.
So it seems.
Sure,
So
why
it
do
seems. There is, I don't want to sound heretical, but there is a very interesting article by Nassim Slifkin, the zoo rabbi. Depends who you ask. He's a controversial rabbi. I'm not going to say he's a heretic. He's an expert in zoology, in animals, and he writes a lot about animals in the Torah. And he has a zoo that has the Torah's animals in it, but he also, yeah, I think in Yerushalayim.
Oh, the biblical zoo.
Biblical zoo.
Ah, I'll probably be taking my son there next week.
Nice. So anyway, the Kitzer, this so but he has like opinions that are like against the grain of, mainstream. He was put at the Chayrim, whatever, whole thing. So he writes that the whole basis that we have for the size of the olive is based on Tosfos, who figures out from a Gemara that an olive is either a third of an egg or half of an egg, and that's the whole basis of it. So his chiddush is, and the Mechaber accepts that, and that became standard halacha. But his point is that he claims, at least, that the Baalei Tosfos did not have olives. They never saw an olive in their life. The olives were not found in France. They were in Italy and in the southern part of Europe.
Doesn't matter if they had an egg, we could figure it out.
Now, that's his whole point. His whole point is that Tosfos, that the Rishonim who lived in those countries that had olives, they don't discuss the size of an olive because everybody had an olive and you knew what an olive was. You understand? You didn't have to describe, they didn't have to tell you the size of an olive. Because
Tosfos is the one saying that it's
Tosfos is the one who says it's a half
So
of
where
an
did they
egg, a
get that
third of
from?
an egg, based on Gemaras and comparing. This is what it is.
It was a lumdus type
It was a lumdus thing. The other Rishonim, he says, they don't describe the size of an olive because they had olives and they knew what it was, and it was what it was.
Well, same thing with Esrogim.
That what?
The Esrogim, the Ashkenazim holding them up and upside down, because that's how they understood they grew.
No, that's not why.
Why did Ashkenazim hold them upside down?
No, because when they start growing, they grow that way, and then they become, when they get heavier, that's when the pit them up. Pit them up. The pit them up. Yeah. That'd be funny.
Piton?
Yeah.
The pit them up. The stem down. Stem down. Stem down.
Oh,
Unless, well, maybe you mean before the bracha and then they switch it. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
No, that's because they don't want to do the mitzvah before the bracha. So they hold it upside down, then they do the bracha, and then they hold it the right way.
Oh, okay. I heard that it was because originally they used to do it down because they thought that was the way it grew.
No.
Oh.
They don't want to do the bracha. They don't want to do the bracha before, exactly, after they fill the mitzvah.
Oh.
Anyway, so whatever. So he says that the shear of the olive, according to those of Shainim that don't say a shear, should be the size of an olive.
it's hard to swallow because no one thought of questioning, saying all the time they never quoted that, never thought about questioning Tosfos' Pshat.
Right, especially in light of the fact that the Machaber did live in those countries. I mean, lived in Eretz Yisrael and so on. So, but it's an interesting thing because
How
he
does the
says,
Machaber paskin?
the Machaber passes like this Tosfos,
Okay.
a third or half of an egg. No, but it is interesting.
Everyone passes it.
It is, yeah. In the poskim that we have, everybody passes like that. But his thing is that in the archaeological dig. So as far as the famous thing is that Tosfos says it. Our olives are different. Okay, we have different species of olives. There's many species of olives. Those olives were bigger. So his question on that is that the olive pits that are found in excavations are more or less the same size of our olive pits. Of course, you could say, well, maybe the pits were the same, but the flesh was bigger. That's already a stretch. You know what I'm saying? Why shouldn't you say that? Okay. I'm just sharing his
Maybe the world was created with olive pips already there.
I'm sorry?
Maybe the world was created with olive pips already there in the ground.
They're not that old.
With the dinosaur bones.
No. I'm not going to go that far. Okay, so,
Yes. Someone told me he asked a question.
yeah.
I was going to ask you about it, but anyway, someone told me today that you wrote Shaila by him. Where were the dinosaurs on the Teva? Why, or where were the dinosaurs? Like, if there were dinosaurs at that time, why didn't they last the Mabul?
Yeah.
So the answers.
I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to start that.
He didn't bring it. They were too
Rabbi,
big. So they died, and that's why fossils. Is that, yeah, I answered that.
I can answer that, Rabbi. When Adam did the sin, God took the 1,000 years to 120. He shrink all the animals, the Adams. He was Rosh Magiad Shamayim. So
And now
he
it
shrinks
says animals? Who said?
everything. He shrinks everything.
That you're saying. Who says?
When God shrinks everything.
Okay.
So what's the? So where is the dinosaur?
I don't have to answer every question. That's not on the syllabus. This is not the Ask the Rabbi session. Okay. I mentioned last week that there's a machlekes about fruit that are now normally squeezed and are planted with the intention of squeezing. That some Rishonim say that it is actually mid'oraisa now, just like grapes and olives, but I didn't tell you who says what. So here you have it in the notes, number 2. Grapes and olives, they are usual to squeeze. The Ran says that only the juice of these fruits is considered liquid according to the Torah. Based on this, if it is normal to squeeze out the fruit, it can be minator according to Rashi, but not according to the Ran. Got it? Clear? Again, what is special about grapes and olives? Rashi says, because they're normal to squeeze. The Ran says, because the Torah recognizes what comes out of them as liquids and not what comes out of other fruits. Like we said last week, Yad, Shach, Adam, there's only 7 liquids, and the other fruit juices are not part of them. So according to Rashi, that it's about usual to squeeze. So if you have other fruits that are usual to squeeze, they also become mid'oraisa. According to the Ran, no, it has to be these, because these are the only ones that have mashke al pi Torah, that have, okay, so that, based on that, it could be that the fruits that are normal to squeeze nowadays are actually mid'oraisa.
Would you say all of them? All the fruits that are usual to squeeze are always planted, or always have somewhere that's planted just for those? Say cranberries, oranges.
Yeah, maybe not. I'm not going to say all, but definitely oranges. The juice oranges. No question about it. Okay.
How many are there? I mean, there may be companies who make like a tomato juice, but like, I don't know if there's, can it be also in certain places, not the whole world? Like, let's say there's only like tomato juice. I mean, I don't know. Let's say something more random. Let's say pineapples. Maybe they just take the pineapples that they don't sell and they squeeze them. Does it have to be the
nowadays? Everything is so commercialized that they grow them definitely because the companies that produce juice, they need the juice. They can't rely on other people's rejects. So they definitely plant orchards for the sake of their juice. That doesn't mean most of that fruit is planted for juice. You know what I'm saying? But definitely there are.
So as long as there's one place that's doing it, it becomes a d'oraisa.
I don't know. Maybe not.
What a country has to be that doesn't.
I'm not going to say that getter, but definitely, for example, the who does he quote here? I don't remember who but he definitely quotes some of the late Achronim that say that nowadays the Pri Hadar, the citrus fruits, are considered mid'oraisa because of the quantities that are used for squeezing. I don't know exactly if it's most of the countries and most of the fruits or what. Yes.
Today, you're saying about the palm chocolate.
Definitely not eitz. Adama. Because it's not a pre-ha'etz, it is the eitz.
What's this?
Hearts of palm. The heart of the palm is the palm. You're eating the tree, so you can't say the pre-ha'etz. Now you have to say the pre-ha'adama. Used to be sha'akal, yeah. But now they planted special for that, so that's why it's adama. In the Gemara it says sha'akal. But now they planted special.
It says sha'akal about hearts of palm?
Yeah. Now we switch it to adama, yeah. Because in the Gemara's time, they couldn't imagine that you would take a tree, a good tree, and mamish cut its heart out just to eat. And that's it. You kill the tree. That's what you do, basically. They kill the tree. So they couldn't imagine. So such a thing was crazy. It was strange. So that's not a normal thing to do. So that's why it's sha'akal. But nowadays they mamish plant specifically for the hearts.
So,
and the same for bamboo shoots, right? It's hadama.
So we said, but anything they have to replant and doesn't be more like hadama.
It's hadama anyway. It's hadama anyways, because you're not eating the fruit.
Rabbi, I mentioned something, tomato juice. So this company make tomato juice, but in the house, sometimes the tomato you have to you can allow to grind it for some food like
Grind? You can't grind on Shabbos.
you cannot.
Grind on Shabbos, you can't grind. You can cut it, but you can't grind it.
Well, for Jachna and stuff?
Yes,
That's grinding.
it's going. It's not good.
Can't grind on Shabbos.
You can make it before Shabbos.
Before Shabbat.
Question? No. Okay.
Would there be any difference? I know it doesn't. I can't imagine that there would, because it doesn't. It's not done at all. But mushrooms. Bracha of mushrooms doesn't change, even though nowadays they probably make mushrooms for. Right? What is it going to change to?
They're always shahakal, aren't they?
Yeah, comes from the air.
But I'm saying, it can't be any other bracha. Doesn't
No.
fall into the category of anything.
No.
Even though nowadays probably it's more special because they do.
Well, this is a special. It's not
Oh,
a
no.
pre-Hadam.
Oh, and also they don't make it for anything else.
It's
Anyway,
not a
so-
pre-Hadam.
Okay,
There's nothing to do.
I stepped out of
No matter how special it is. Okay. So,
You said grow in order to make juice, like pineapple juice.
yeah.
Don't they also use the parts? They use the bowl, niblets, whatever, slices. They're not just throwing all that out, right? So
I don't know if
Juice
those
and-
niblets. Yeah, but probably different orchards. I imagine if you're squeezing it, I don't think they have anything left. Probably just, or pulp, which they either mix in or use for something else. But I don't think you actually have any solid. I doubt. Okay. Anyway,
I saw hydroponic fruits or grown vegetables. So there was no focus whether you should bless shahakal or eitzar adama.
yeah.
So how would you know that if you're going to buy fruits? How would you know if this company
It's a good question.
doesn't produce everything?
It's a good
according to
question.
shahakal? How would you know?
If you go by Shaka, you have to find out.
Say, how would I know that?
You would have to find out.
I go to Winn-Dixie, I buy fruit. How would I know?
You would have to find out
Thank you for this.
anytime. All right. Nowadays, things are easy. Research is easy nowadays. Okay. If you cut a grapefruit and you spoon pieces out of the grapefruit to eat, you will inevitably be left with a puddle of grapefruit juice on the bottom of that grapefruit half. Mutter or asr?
Yes.
Well, it can't be more strict than if pomegranates or berries were inadvertently squished, can it?
Is it inadvertent?
Watermelon also. Watermelon. Yeah.
You're allowed to drink it.
To find also.
So we have a machloikis of the achronim here. Rav Shlomo Zalman says you're allowed to. First of all, he says it's midrabanan, following his opinion that even fruits that are planted for squeezing is midrabanan. So first of all, it's midrabanan. Second of all, it's not your intention. You know it's going to happen, but it's not your intention. He calls it a psik ratio. Psik ratio. And you're doing it in an unusual way. This is not the way you squeeze a grapefruit. You want to squeeze a grapefruit, you squeeze it with a squeezer or whatever. Squeezing it with a spoon as you're eating it is not the usual way. So it's a psik ratio, b'derabanan, kela achar yad, and then he adds in another svara. Other svara is that usually the juice is really not on its own. It's usually mixed in with some of the pulp. So you can't really say that you're squeezing it because it's really part of the fruit. It's still connected to the fruit. So therefore it should be considered just eating and not squeezing at all. However, Reb Nissen Karelitz, as well as the Shabbos Kahalacha, quotes other Achrayim, who question this and say, and they give examples that a psik reisha b'drabanan is not mutter, even kala achayad. It gives other examples, so it's not so clear. This is one of those things that's not clear, but definitely even Rav Shlomo Zalman would agree that you cannot intend to squeeze. As you're eating the grapefruit, you shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm getting some good juice out here. That you can't do. It has to just be on, by the way.
כמו אבטיח רבי?
Sorry?
כמו אבטיח, שאתה חותך אותו. So it's a lot of juice coming without thinking.
Right.
So this is okay. Broken, but it's okay.
According to Rav Shlomo Zalman, it's certainly okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about the others if they would say that, because there it's usually like a small amount of the grapefruit. I mean, by the watermelon. The grapefruit is a significant amount, and it's normal to drink it. By the watermelon, it's on the cutting board. You rinse it off.
You put a plate over there, you're gonna.
If you do, but I don't know if it's a normal thing to collect it. I have to collect it. Look at it.
No, it's not. When you cut it, it's automatically it's there.
Right. Okay. Milk by non-Jew on Shabbos is also because it's like mashkin shazavu.
You're allowed to take from the watermelon, also with the scoop, also the spoon.
Amalo.
This will leave a lot of.
Same as a grapefruit. Okay, I'm just number 5. You can forget yourself. Number 6, according to Chazon Ish, one may put a wedge of lemon into tea in a kli shlishi, as this is like putting grapes into wine. My friends, a very important point that I did not really get into, and that is, are you allowed to put grapes into wine? I think I did get into this last week. If you have a barrel of wine, are you allowed to put grapes into it with the intent that the grapes should split open and spit their liquid out, so to speak? The juice in them will become part of that barrel.
We studied that last week.
And what did we say?
We know.
Everybody agrees, or it's machlokes?
No, you don't lie.
For sure?
But the grape in the bottle of wine, you're not going to be feel that something happened over there.
So,
But if you
Yes,
put
I'm
in
sure
the
of
grape in a different liquid, it asks you if you're allowed to put it in the vodka or something like that to flavor it, that you're not allowed.
so it's actually a machlokes if you did it already. We said it's mutter b'diavad for sure.
It's a barrel of wine.
Even in other liquids, if it's bottled b'shishim. Even in other liquids. Even with different flavors, still
Also,
bottled
if you
b'shishim.
think that I'm going to do it for that, like that, Robert?
I didn't say that. I said it's a machlokes. And b'diavad, it's for sure mutter, yes. Even if you did it on purpose, b'diavad, after the fact, it's for sure mutter. Why? Because it becomes bottled. Becomes bottled b'shishim. And we don't say that it's a davar sheish l'matirin, because davar sheish l'matirin is only more machmir if it starts out as a separate entity of a davar sheish l'matirin, then it mixes in. But if it mixes in right away, we don't say that. Now, are you allowed to do it lechatchila? That we had a machlokes about. Some say yes, Magen Avraham, and that's the Mishnah Berurah Paskins, because he says it's like putting ice into water. You're allowed to put ice into water.
In the vino, because it's the same type.
No, minimum is as far as
You would not be allowed to put ice into water specifically to get, if I need to serve 10 people liquid, and I've got liquid enough for 5 people, and I pad it out with ice to get the liquid out of the ice, so that I've got 10.
padded. What does padded mean?
To increase the volume of liquid.
Yes.
Then I would not be allowed to put the ice in.
You would absolutely be allowed to put the ice in.
I thought we can't put. I thought we said that we can only put it in to chill it. So we can put ice in liquid with the intention that it melts and gives us liquid.
That is correct.
Oh, I misunderstood then.
Yes. Because since you're not creating anything separate and distinct, it's not considered like you're making something new. The whole thing about ice is like you're moiled. You're creating something. Because what you're creating is not separate, it's not significant. Now,
Then-
the ice, there's a machloikis if you're allowed to actually squeeze it in the water itself. So you're actually doing it actively, but passively, you're for sure allowed. Sorry?
Can you put ice in the glass and put water into it?
Yeah, as long as you do it before it melts. Yeah. Okay, so some say that the same thing applies to the grapes in the wine. You're putting it in. It's coming in on its own. It never becomes a separate entity. So it's like you didn't really do anything. The Alter Rebbe, however, passes like the Taz, who says since when you put it in, you know it's going to split open. That's just the laws of science, right? That eventually it's going to become so full of liquid because of the, liquids try to spread as much as they can, so it's going to eventually burst. So you know that's going to happen. So that's like Rama. It's like you're causing it to split open. Now, it's bottle, but that doesn't mean you can do it in the first place. That's the psak of the Alter Rebbe. Now, based on the psak of the Mishnah Berurah who allows this, Chazan Ish says you can take a lemon wedge and put it into your tea. Slice of lemon, exactly. You can take a slice of lemon, put it into your tea, even though you know that it's going to the little, whatever they're called, those little pockets are going to burst open and send out their juice. That's okay. Just like it's okay with the grapes.
You're not allowed to squeeze it with a spoon inside the tea.
No, can't squeeze it.
Just
Can't squeeze it. Just like by the ice. It's machlokas, but you can't actually squeeze it in the water. You put it in, you can't squeeze it.
You go onto a salad.
What?
Lemon.
Yes. Now, I don't know what the Alter Rebbe holds about this question. I meant to look it up. Are you allowed to put a lemon wedge into a tea?
I saw on Shabbat and the
Yes.
Alpha and the Sefer
Yes.
and the Sephardi, and I'm not mistaken, you put before you put out water. Whatever you want to put in the second cup. I mean,
I'm
not
not talking about
directly.
bishul. I'm not talking about bishul. Let's just say it's a kli shlishi v'zeh.
They said you put whatever you want inside the cup, and then you pour from
You're talking about bishul. I'm not talking about bishul. I'm talking about schita.
it's hot.
Putting it in because you know it's gonna go out. Achnasasam l'koif tei. Here we have it. Shin Bifas. Give me a minute.
It doesn't sound like what he said is going to be put there.
What?
Think an item first and then put the hot water from the urn inside the.
Urn? No, not from the urn. From the urn or from a klisheni?
No, klishlishi.
From the klisheni into the
You got
klisheni.
the container, and then you get the cup, and you got another cup. You put in the third cup or wherever you.
Irumi cliche.
Irumi klisheni. Shabbos Kalaf.
The Rav said that Irumi cliche is the same thing as cliche, right?
Choria.
I do click.
Choria.
I asked the Rav, I don't remember the answer before or after. Oatmeal.
We studied that.
Okay, so what's the answer?
We studied that. Rabbi.
What's the answer?
Cliche.
You have to check if it's cooked before. If it's cooked before, yes. Without it.
Oatmeal.
Yeah. You saw today the oatmeal is cooked before, and it's okay. You have to check that if it's cooked. You have to check the bag.
Quaker oats.
You have to check the bag. That's what we studied 6 months ago.
I asked the question.
Yeah, Rabbi Forker says it's also.
Even if it's cooked before? Even if the roast section?
I don't know if it's totally cooked. If it would be
Toasted.
totally cooked,
No,
toasted is afia.
Oh,
Svarda Bamekel by afia, by Bishal afia. But if it's
Sorry,
not,
what's awesome?
to make instant oats, even in a klishli, revi, chamishi, shishi. Basically, he says that it's a kale abishal. Anything is kale abishal. If you see that it cooks, exactly. No, the Ram is machmer even something that could be kale abishal. But he says this you actually see is cooking. So therefore, he says you can't do it even anything Yatz let us boy, basically, is what he says.
So Ashkenaz Machmir and Sfaradim Makel is in this one?
If it's baked, Sfaradim would be Makel, but I don't know.
What's baked?
If it's baked. I don't know.
What's baked? Instant
Quick
oats are raw.
Instant oats?
Even those packets, it takes like 10 seconds to rehydrate.
Yeah, what about
You know,
that?
where it's not really cooking, is it? If it's
He says
Has
it's
it been cooked
actually
already?
cooking. Was it cooked already? I don't know. It has to be.
Remember 6 months ago, he asked the same question.
Same thing.
It has to be fully cooked. It has to be fully cooked.
I remember. Like
Who
yesterday.
remembers?
Like yesterday.
I think instant oats are just ground but more finely.
It's ready to eat. You can have a question if it's
And then the rabbi
Mount Taber, what do you say?
mentions if it's before.
We did.
Yeah.
What did you say, Essie?
Potatoes also.
Yeah.
Instant oats are not pre-cooked. They're just ground. They're rolled thinner and ground more finely.
Shemaya?
Take it out.
He says instant oats are not pre-cooked. They're just cut very thin.
Even the packages though, the packages could be different. Like the small single packages.
I don't know. I don't want to claim
That's
that I
why we
know
need
since I
to
don't
check
know.
that. That's why. How do you check it? Right? They said in the ingredient over there it's cooked before.
Oh no! You might find some instant oats are cooked actually. So I'm just looking up. Some instant oats are cooked, so I might be wrong there.
Okay. Rabbi Farkash does not seem to come to a conclusion here. He says some are mekel, some are machmer, as far as putting a wedge of lemon into the tea. Okay, we're going to get back to lemon soon in today's shir, Mirz Hashem. Nevertheless, let me finish the notes. Now, number 7 is something that I only wrote it down because we touched upon it in one of our discussions last week. Because we said if you put the liquid into a solid, it's not going to be considered a liquid, it's going to be considered a solid. Somebody asked, what if it's absorbed, partially absorbed, how much absorbed? So the Mishnah Berurah says, as far as milking into food on Yom Tov, you like to milk directly into food on Yom Tov, but in order for it to be mutter, a majority has to actually be absorbed by that food. And the rest, as long as it's mixed in with the food, it's okay. It's just floating on top, it's a problem. You'll have to stop as soon as it...
Question: is it then acceptable for a woman to express breast milk straight into, say, rice cereal?
That's an interesting question. That's an interesting question. Can a woman express breast milk into rice cereal
What was the rice cereal example given for?
to make it into a salad?
You talking about Shabbos
Rabbi,
or is the rest
He
of
said
Oh,
before.
like a mushy rice.
Yeah, but
It's not for the baby.
For baby
For
food.
the baby.
Rice yogurt?
For baby food.
For
Rabbi,
the baby.
we said before she doesn't know to put in a container.
Why?
ככל שכן and container with the food.
Why? She can't because it's dash.
How do you? She
Because it's
removed that.
mafarik. But if it's
she's
into
mafarik.
oichel, so she's not creating a liquid.
How
She's
she
creating a
remove it
salad.
from
This is going to be the liquid that the rice cereal needs instead of
Rabbi,
water or something
Exactly.
she must squeeze it to come out.
She squeezes it directly into the rice cereal. She puts rice cereal on the bottom of the bottle, and it goes straight into the rice cereal. The truth is a problem of lush.
It's not mefarek, Rabbi.
We said you could do it directly into food. אנחנו לומדים משהו, לא?
Oh, so directed to the food.
That's his question.
But you say fruit, you're allowed to do on top of food.
And milk, you can milk a cow on Yom Tov directly into food.
What about Shabbos?
Shabbos you can't.
Okay, so over here it's not Yom Tov.
What's the difference?
You're talking about Shabbos, not Yom Tov.
Well, tell me the difference.
Hmm?
Tell me the difference.
between Yom Tov and Shabbos regarding
The animal's muktzah on Shabbos, but not on Yom Tov? Unless you're doing it to relieve the pain?
Kind of. The difference between Yom Tov and Shabbos, I mean, you're right, but I just wanted to...
You can use the animal on Yom Tov, but not on Shabbos.
You can shecht an animal on Yom Tov, not on Shabbos. So an animal on Yom Tov is considered food because it could be eaten.
But this would be mukhan, you have to have it in mind.
What does that mean?
Also,
What does that mean? Why? If you decide to shecht an animal, you can shecht it.
even if there are few,
Why not?
you shouldn't be decided which one before.
No, that's why birds that come and go and you're not sure, then you have to designate. A regular animal in your barn, you don't have to decide before. The point is that animals at Yom Tov are considered food. So when you milk the milk out of them into food, you're taking food from food. That's why it's mutter. On Shabbos, however, because the animals are not edible, not allowed to shech on Shabbos. So that's a separate point. But that's only Darbanan. Actually, this is also Darbanan.
So what's Darbanan?
1 second. Whatever.
Okay.
The animals on Shabbos are not food, correct? Can't eat them. So when you milk from the animal directly into food, you are getting oichel from psoilas. It's not mashke because it's going into food, right? But you're getting oichel from psoilas. The animal is like psoilas because you can't eat it. So that's a problem.
Why they don't take?
One second. One thing at a time.
But
Shomea?
you can have left with the food in your hand and the toilet safe. You're taking the food out of.
No.
You cannot consider food at all.
No. Taking food out of the psoilas is only mutter if it's derech achila. This is not derech achila. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed to take food out of psoilas, but only if that's the way of eating it. Here, this is not the way of eating it. This is preparing it before you eat it. Okay, so here's the thing, my friends.
So the woman breast is not considered food also.
So that's the thing. A woman is obviously not considered food, so therefore on Shabbos, it's going to be a problem. Even on Yom Tov,
it's not going to be a problem, you mean?
It is going to be a problem. Even on
But
Yom
a woman's not psoilus.
As far as eating is concerned, she's psoilus.
Not for a baby.
The woman's body, what does that mean? The milk is the baby's food, not the woman's body. You understand?
Oh, right.
So
but a woman's not muktzah to begin with.
It's not talking about muktzah. I didn't say muktzah. I said psoilus.
But surely an animal's psoilus because you can't have the milk and the fleshik together. So it's sort of
nothing to do with
separate.
milk and fleshik. On Shabbos, you can't eat it. You can't eat it because you can't shecht it on Shabbos.
Yeah, okay.
On Yom Tov, when you can't eat it, it's oichel. So you're taking oichel from oichel. So, but that was an interesting question, Yassi. I will definitely grant you that. And I'm wondering on Yom Tov. I'm wondering if maybe it's a good heter on Yom Tov.
Based on what?
If you,
It's still not something that you is edible.
no, but maybe let's oichel nefesh.
Yeah, but you can just drink the milk also.
Sorry.
We said before you said, it's a Yom Tov. He said it is the only food you're allowed even to squeeze it into a bowl and give to the baby. It's on Shabbos.
Yeah, that's because it's sakanas nefashos. That's an exception. What's the pshat hak on Yom Tov? Well, why can't you just milk the cow? Because it's oichel nefesh. Fresh milk is definitely better than day-old milk.
Milk the cow on Yom Tov, but talking because it said the cow you're allowed to shop, so you take
No, but I'm talking. You could do from on Yom Tov, you could do it into food, right? But why can't you just milk into a container and eat it and drink it? Why is it not considered tzarech ochel nefesh? I'm just wondering out loud. I don't know the answer. What?
Why can't can a person milk a cow on Yom Tov?
Only into
Drink it?
food. Only into food.
No, and drink it.
Only into food.
Into food? I'm saying, why can't he? It's a whole nefesh.
Wasn't that question exactly?
I thought it's supposed to be asking you the question, you're going to be shamayim, but you get an answer from me.
Ay.
Sometimes when you ask something yourself, you don't know, but someone asks you, you always think of an answer.
Maybe it has to be memat melacha.
Oh, l'tzorech, all the malachas are allowed for
I'm reading here that it's that a milking cow you can't milk on Yom Tov, but an eating cow you can milk into food.
That's a separate issue. That's because if it's a milking cow, so it's not food because you're not going to eat it. Kind of, it's more or less muktzah, yeah. But if it's an eating cow, then it's not. Then it's food. But that's only into food. That's not into container.
Maybe because during the week, this is the way you milk the cow. And to be mavdil, and to be some malachas during the chol. So.
What do you mean? The way I cook on Yom Tov is the same way I cook during the week.
And then you're taking it and you put on your food and whatever.
On Yom Tov you can cook. On Yom Tov you can cook in the same way you cook during the week. You take your pot, you put it on the fire, and you cook. I do it during the week. Okay, it's not aser because it's ochel nefesh. I'm thinking something else actually. I'm thinking something else. Maybe it's in the schus that you asked the question. There is a machlokes in Hilchos Yom Tov. What exactly, which malachas do we allow and which don't we allow, right? So some say it just goes by what's
whatever you're not allowed to do on Shabbos because Shvut and Reshut and the mitzvah, you should do it on Moed also.
No, I'm talking about the which malachas do we allow the tzarech ochel nefesh and which don't we, right? Yeah. Some we allow and some we don't. I'm not talking about shvus. I'm talking about you can't pick something from the tree on Yom Tov. Tzarech ochel nefesh can't do it, right? So which do we and which don't we? So there's a machlokes in the Rishonim. Some say that it has to do with quantities. Things that are done in large quantities, Chazal forbade, because they were afraid you would do it in large quantities. So harvesting, normally you harvest like a whole field, so they didn't want to allow you to harvest at all. But when it comes to baking, you bake for yourself, whatever, so that they allow. But then there's another opinion that they learned from a pasuk, actually, that it's only mutter from lisha ve'elech. From lisha ve'elech, in the terms of the Sidur, the past, the order of making bread. So there's choresh, there's areya, there's kotzer, there's dash, there's zoira, there's boyer, there's ma'amar, I skipped, toichen, and then lush. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So they learn from a pasuk, lush and on is mutter. So I'm thinking that because mefarik is a tulda of dash, it's before lush. It's too early. It's too early in the order of things. I don't know if it's true, so don't applaud just like. Okay, let's finish off this sheet. So first of all, honey is a liquid, so you cannot squeeze a fruit juice into honey. Okay, before we do the tzemach tzedek, we have to learn the next piece, which is about lemons. We didn't learn it yet. First Zion in the Machaber, and then the corresponding.
What did we say for the Alter Rebbe with regard to lemon in tea?
Rabbi Forkash does not have a clear psak on that. He says some are machmer, some are mekel. But let's first learn what the Alter Rebbe himself says about lemons, as well as what Tzemach Tzedek says, and then we can try to revisit that issue with a little bit more clarity. Okay, this is Sivav in the Machaber, actually, a three-word seif. Mutter lischoit limoinish. Yeah? It's permissible to squeeze lemons. That takes care of that.
We're looking always for short halachas to say when you walk in down with its medrash.
Yeah, exactly. There you have it. What is it? What's the reason for this? Why?
Because lemons are never drink
lemons?
by themselves.
I'm sorry?
Lemons are never drunk by themselves.
So here's the thing.
It's a tam.
Which one? Which is love?
Love.
Mosif tam, Rabbi.
So lemons are not something you drink on its own. It's too tart, right? It's used to flavor, whether it's to flavor food or it's also used to flavor drinks. Now, this is a question that was asked, and the Radvaz addressed it, and the Machaber brings it in the Beis Yosef. How is it that in Egypt they squeeze lemons in large quantities, they fill barrels with them, and they do it on Shabbos too?
For the Egyptian?
The Egyptian Jews. So what's
Because it's not for drinking by itself, presumably.
So let's discuss. The point is, if you say that lemons are normally squeezed to flavor foods, they're not squeezed for liquids, okay? So therefore, it's category 3 of the 3 categories, right? In category 3, you're allowed to squeeze. I mean, some are strict, but make halacha, you're allowed to squeeze. But if they're actually making barrels of lemonade, so it should be category 2, it should be forbidden. So there are 2 answers that the Radvaz gives, and then they say, so quotes them both. One is that they don't squeeze them into barrels directly. They squeeze them into water. They squeeze them into water, so they never really get their own they never make real lemonade out of them.
They squeeze lemons into water?
They make lemonade,
Rabbi?
but they don't squeeze the lemon separately. They squeeze it directly into the liquid.
They're not making lemon juice. They're making lemonade.
They're making lemonade, but directly into the liquid, right away lemonade. That's what's not shisha. That's one opinion. That's one answer. Another answer is, listen carefully. Even if they squeeze it into separate barrels and they mix it into a liquid later, because it's only consumed together with something else, it doesn't fit the category of something that's squeezed for its juice. Remember, we're trying to figure out which category it fits in, right? Category 1, it's not, obviously. Category 2 or 3, is it something that's squeezed for its juice or not? So because that juice is not edible on its own, right? It's only edible together with water, so it doesn't make it into category 2. Because you can't say it's squeezed for its juice. Its juice is not really edible. You have to do something else to it in order to make it edible. Just like we said, for example, something that is squeezed as a medicine, that doesn't put it into category 2. That's some category 3. People drink it, okay, but it's not real food, you know what I'm saying? So because it's not edible on its own, it's only edible with something else, so it's not like a real food. It doesn't become important because of that. Okay, so which of these answers is the main answer? There's 2 answers here, right? How to explain the Egyptian minhag.
What was the second one?
The first one was that you're doing it into liquid. The second one is even if you're doing it separate, but because you can't eat it on its own, you only consume it when it's mixed, so it doesn't have the importance of something. It's as if it's going to get mixed, so it doesn't have the importance of something that's squeezed for consumption. You can't do that.
It can't be that you're doing it into liquid as the main reason, because you can't do other stuff into liquid. That makes it problematic.
No. That's not the point. The point isn't that because you're doing it to liquid, that's what makes it mutter. The Point is that because you do it into liquid, so therefore it's not considered that it's in category 2. Of something that's in category 1 or 2, right? Either grapes or olives or pomegranates, whatever, you can't do into liquid. That's because when you squeeze it, what comes out of it is considered liquid. And when you squeeze it into liquid, you're creating liquid, you have a problem. But over here, we're trying to figure out if it goes into category 2 or not. Is it considered something that it's squeezed for its liquids or not? So because it's only squeezed into liquid, so it never exists as an entity on its own, you understand? It's never squeezed as a juice that's consumed on its own. So therefore, its juice is not considered a significant juice because it's never produced as a juice on its own.
Did you assume, or you're saying that in Egypt they was squeezing it into water?
At that time, that was apparently what they did, yeah.
So, but they could even squeeze it into on top of the rice, on top of the sugar. It's going to be even better.
Okay, but that's not that. I mean, police can discuss it, but that's not what they were doing in Egypt. And that's another thing, right? That's discussed also, but that's not what they were doing.
But in our time, it's not going to be more.
Why not?
To squeeze into a liquid.
Why not?
Because actually we use for mashkin, we're using it. The whole purpose of lemon is to do mashkin with it.
So here's the thing. It really depends on what is the main answer of the Radvaz.
Liquid, we said we cannot, but to squeeze it on top of the food, we could.
It depends. What is the main answer of the Radvaz? Is the main answer that it's squeezed into liquid? Nowadays, they don't squeeze lemons into liquid. Nowadays, they squeeze lemon and they add it to the liquid later. So if that's the main answer, then nowadays you can't squeeze lemons. If the main answer is that it's not something you consume on its own, that's still for sure true. Nobody drinks plain lemon juice. You always mix it in. That's what I'm saying.
Let me ask you. We agree that we're allowed to squeeze lemon on top of the food. Correct?
Yeah.
Can I squeeze lemon on top of sugar and then add water?
Machlokes.
I'm doing it first on top of the food. And then I'm adding water.
Machlokes.
Doesn't everyone? I thought everyone.
What's the question?
Can you squeeze lemon into sugar where it gets absorbed, and then you mix it into water later?
I'm adding water on top of it.
The Mishnah Berurah allows it, that Tzemach Tzedek does not. Actually discusses it clearly, yes. Says it's not allowed. Very simple. You don't have to explain it to Tzemach Tzedek. You have to explain the Mishnah Berurah. But Tzemach Tzedek is simple. Just like when you squeeze something into a plate with the intention of adding it to a drink, to a food later, mid'oraisa, that's not usher. Because mid'oraisa, it's considered that you are squeezing it for food.
So I can squeeze the lemon into a bowl and pour it into the on top of the food.
Mid'oraisa, yes. Mid'oraisa, even a grape or a olive, you can do that, as long as you're going to mix it with food later. Mid'oraisa, not mid'orabana. Whatever, before you consume it. That's mid'oraisa. So if we see that mid'oraisa, what it becomes later is the main thing. So same thing here. If your intention is that it should become a liquid, then that's the main thing. It's considered a liquid, even though in between it's absorbed by a solid. See what I'm saying? From the fact that mid'oraisa, if you squeeze into a bowl with the intention of mixing it with food later, it's considered food. We see that the main thing is what it's going to become later, not what it is this minute. So the same thing, if you're squeezing it into sugar, but you know it's going to become liquid, you want it to become liquid, that's the main thing.
But basically, by putting it, the lemon on top of the sugar, it becomes liquid by itself already.
No, it depends how much sugar.
But how much lemon also.
I understand that. But even so, the Tzemach Tzedek says it's not allowed if you're planning to mix it.
I have to ask that question. My daughter Renee, we study on Shabbat, And she asked the question, how we allowed to have the pot boiling on Shabbat? And the Torah said, no. Okay. I didn't know what to answer.
You can't cook, but your pot can cook.
The pot can cook.
Pot can cook, yes.
But
your kalim can work for you. You can't work. But
That's what the Tzedukkim thought.
Exactly.
So
Karaites nowadays.
Rabbi, if I cannot cook, so and the pot cook for me, how can the goy, he will not cook for me also?
The goy cannot also madarabanan.
He is not kili also, like
No.
kli?
Yeah, goy is not a kli, no.
Kli can cook for you.
Yes,
That's the answer.
yes. And as long as what you did, you started before Shabbos.
For Shabbat, yes. That's
Okay, so let's learn the Alter Rebbe, and we're going to see what he says about lemons. Alter Rebbe, no, we'll get to Zion later. Here's Alter Rebbe Yud. Tapuchim dinam keshar peres. The laws pertaining to apples are the same as those pertaining to other fruits. What? I think so. Anybody? Anybody remember? Where's Eitan? He always remembers.
What was the question?
Did we do Ches and Tes last week in the Alter Rebbe? 8 and 9?
No, I think we were up to hay or above.
You're kidding. My goodness. Are you sure?
I don't. Yeah, I think so. I don't have any marks by them, but
I don't recall. I know what you're talking about. I don't recall.
Where do you think we're up to, Ronnie?
I know for sure we did Vav because we were discussing about the grave and then asking Ksot Shulchan about it. And probably we touched Zion, but for sure Chet and Tet we didn't do.
All right, let's go back. Let's go back, my friends. We're going to start from hay, just to be safe. We're going to start from hay. I don't know. Doesn't look familiar to me now that I'm looking at it. Chatzanim, well, I'll just go through it quickly. Chatzanim is zogim shenasan aleim mayim lasis temed. When water was poured over grape seeds and peels to make temed before Shabbos. Temed is a drink made by mixing water with peels and seeds of grapes. The residue of the grape juice imparts flavor to the water. Mutter limshe. I'm sorry? I think so. Mutter limshe mehem b'Shabbos v'lishtes. It is permitted to draw the liquid from them on Shabbos and drink it. Afila nosan mayim v'yayin mismatze v'zov me'ila mutter lishtes. Yekivin shekvanas yaskin boyd. Moreover, even if one did not mix the grape seeds and peels with water, and the wine flowed out of it on its own accord, it is permitted to drink it because the grapes were already crushed while it was still there on Friday. Mutter lischet v'vav. Mutter lischet eshkol shalanav l'seich hakder sheish b'tavshel k'dei l'saki. Ha'oichel. Shekol mashka b'loichel k'oichel l'chashem. Ve'ein olav shem mashka klal. V'arizek ha'mafred oichel v'yoichel. It is permitted to squeeze the juice from a cluster of grapes into a pot that contains cooked food in order to improve the flavor of the food. See section 502. The source cited mentions the laws that apply on festivals. On those days, one may also squeeze juice from fruits directly into food that will absorb the liquid completely, even if his purpose is not to flavor that food. There are also other leniencies cited there that do not apply to Shabbos. The rationale is that any liquid that enters food is considered as food and is not classified as a liquid at all. Thus, it is as if one separated food from food, i.e. the wine that is squeezed into the cooked dish is considered food, from food, which is the grape itself. Okay.
Regarding what you said before, that you're allowed to squeeze into a bowl and then pour it on top.
Midaraisa.
Can you do it first? Let's say you squeeze it into a bowl and then decide you want just to pour the salad into the lemon juice. Instead of put the lemons on top of the salad, put the salad on top of the lemon.
It's not mutter midarabanan. Only midaraisa. Avmin ba'oichel also lischet l'soich al pish adayin she'ased la'ar ba'oichel. And here it's right here. Perfect. It's good that we didn't skip this. This is exactly it. Exactly what we're discussing now. If, however, there is no food in the pot, it is forbidden to squeeze the juice from grapes into the pot. True, he will mix food with this juice, and he is squeezing the juice into the pot to improve and sweeten the flavor of the food that he will later place there, which will be eaten together with the juice. So therefore you could say, well, it's going to oichel, it should be like oichel. Hence, however, the juice could be considered as a liquid that enters food and is thus considered as food. And this is true with our rice, I'm adding. Nevertheless, since there is no food in the pot at the time that the juice is squeezed into it, it is not at all evident that the person's sole intention in adding the juice to improve the food. Hence, squeezing juice from the cluster of grapes into an empty pot is forbidden according to rabbinic decree. Only that's a drabbana.
Are you going to change your mind? You're not going to throw it out.
No, even if you don't change your mind, somebody looks, they see you squeezing grape juice. It looks like a problem. You understand? So we see it's only drabbana.
But we do allow to squeeze into food in the pot. That's okay.
We do allow what?
To squeeze into the food in the pot.
Yes, exactly. Because there it's
the same thing as the cow.
And it's going straight in, so there's no room for mistakes. Okay, Actually, note 37, he points out that Samach Tzedek says many Rishonim hold it is Asim B'Daraisa. Okay. Nevertheless, V'chein Hadin B'Tusam Rimon V'Chiyetz. Same applies. We're going to get to lemons in a minute. The same applies to berries, pomegranates, and similar fruits. Avashar peres, but other fruits, after the even those that forbid you to squeeze them for their own juice. I'm talking about the stricter opinion about the third category, who say you can't do it for their own juice. If you're only doing it to mix with food later, it's allowed. And if no food, there's no food in it there. Because everybody knows you're doing it for the food and not the drink. Nobody does it for the sake of mashka. Okay, listen carefully to this chiddush, which I don't know if it has any practical application, but nevertheless you should know it. The reason for the third opinion, for the strict opinion about the third category. Again, third category is something that's not normally squeezed. The main halacha is you can squeeze lechatchila. The Machmer opinion says you can't, because as long as you are thinking that it's going to be a liquid, your desire for it to be a liquid makes it into a liquid. That's only if you want it to actually be a liquid. How are you? How's your wife? Baruch Hashem. Glad to hear. All the best. So here, when you're squeezing it for the sake of mixing it into food later, it's okay. Why? Because you're not machshiv it as a liquid. You understand? The whole thing is if you consider it important as a liquid. Here you don't, because you specifically are planning to mix it to salad later. Somebody's going to look and think, nobody squeezes these fruits for liquids. So what are they going to think? They're going to realize that you're doing it for some other purpose, either because there's too much juice in the fruit or you want to mix it later. They're not going to have any marasayin.
It's going to be only those type of food that that's good for.
Exactly. Exactly, which
So
nowadays.
back then, lemon was not only for the purpose of liquid, no?
That's what we're saying right now.
But our time is different.
Now our time is different. Actually, we're not going to get there today. Let's do 8 and 9. We'll get to 10 tomorrow about the lemons. To what do the above mentioned leniencies regarding squeezing fruit apply? To fruits that are fit to be eaten.
But some fruits fit to eat and to squeeze. Depends what you want to do with it.
I understand that, but I'm talking about in terms of their ripeness. We're talking about how ripe they are. That's what we're talking about now. אפילו אצל לאכול אלתר, שלהתיר לפר אוכל ובסלס ביודק כדי לאכול אלתר, אלא ונש דרך אכילה כך, וליטל האוכל ביודו ונפסלס ולאכול, אינה מלאכה, אבל לסחוב ולאכול אינה דרך אכילה אלא דרך מלאכה. Very important point here. To what do the above mentioned leniencies regarding squeezing fruit apply to fruits that are fit to be eaten? By contrast, all authorities agree that it's forbidden to squeeze fruit that are not fit to be eaten, even if one squeezes their juice directly into food. Rationale is that when one squeezes juice from a fruit that is not fit to be eaten, he is not separating food from fruit, but rather food from undesirable matter, from psoiles. Doing so is thus prohibited because of the forbidden labor for extracting, as out in section 305, and also because of the forbidden labor of separating food from undesirable matter. This prohibition applies even when one wishes to partake of the juice immediately. The rationale is that license to separate food from undesirable matter by hand so that one may eat it immediately was granted only because this is the way one eats, taking food and separating the food by hand from undesirable matter and immediately eating it. Thus it does not resemble forbidden labor. By contrast, squeezing juice from food and eating it in a mixture is not the ordinary manner of eating, but rather the way preparatory labor is performed. So, if you're squeezing it from a fruit that is not edible, you are basically taking oichel from psoilus. And that's not allowed. You're going to say, I'm going to drink it right away. What's the problem? No, because even oichel from psoilus, you're only allowed to do if it's derech achila. Whereas squeezing, I mentioned this before, whereas squeezing and then drinking is not derech achila. Squeezing is the preparation, and then achila is afterwards. So that's the problem. And also, יש מי שאמר לסחר לבית לסחר האכל, ואין צורך להם בשער פרס שנורים לאכילה, אפילו לסחר לשם משקה מותר להמתיהם בשער פרס, יש לך מקצוע ראשונה. Similarly, it is forbidden to squeeze unripe grapes, i.e. grapes that do not reach the size of a white bean, even when the juice is squeezed directly into food. The rationale is that since these grapes are not fit to be eaten, they are considered as undesirable matter in relation to the squeezed juice squeezed from them. At present, the measure corresponding to the size of white bean is not known, hence it is forbidden to squeeze grapes into food until they are considered fit to be eaten by most people. There is an authority that permits squeezing the juice of unripe grapes into food. Needless to say, according to this authority, it is permitted to squeeze other fruits that are not fit to be eaten, even squeezing them for the sake of the juice. Following the approach of authorities, permit squeezing other fruits. One should be stringent and follow the first view. Okay, so there's a machlokes here.
Basically, we can say that any fruit that is not edible at the time that you want to squeeze it, you're not allowed to squeeze it. Even so later on, this type of fruit can be
exactly
ready
exactly
not edible.
Exactly. That's the main halacha. That's the main halacha. My friends, I wanted to cover lemons today, but we didn't quite. So we're going to learn about the Alter Rebbe's opinion and the Tzemach Tzedek and the Mishnah Berurah. It's Hashem tomorrow. And to daven, don't forget Tefillah either.
Oh, it's my birthday.
Oh,
Tiferes.
Tiferes, big
No,
day.
don't say it. Oh, or say it. Don't you not say it until after you make a bracha if you...
The Sphira you can say, just don't
Oh,
say
really?
it.
I thought people don't say it. That's like a way of counting.
That I never heard.
Ah. Okay.
Very good, Mazel Tov.
Thank you. Amen.
Look at that, Yossi. This is Dan. My birthday is Rosh Chodesh ER1, so you're ER2, huh?
I'm sorry, when is your birthday?
I said my birthday is ER1, so he's ER2.
Oh, okay.
So you're the last day of no Tachnan, and I'm the first day of Tachnan.
Yeah.
Mazel Tov to you as well.
Thank you.
All the best. Pleasure.